Congress is increasing its scrutiny on the U.S. Postal Service's leadership, pushing for answers on a series of recent controversial changes. Earlier today, the Congressional Progressive Caucus held a hearing to better understand how the agency has transformed under Postmaster General Louis DeJoy, who took over in June. Earlier this week, DeJoy said he will halt operational changes made under his watch. He's set to testify before a Senate committee Friday ahead of his House appearance scheduled for Monday. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal is the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and a Democrat from Washington's 7th District, and she joins me now from Seattle. Good evening, Congresswoman. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Elaine. Good to be with you. So what did you learn from today's hearing?
It was a stunning hearing. One of the witnesses, David Williams, was the former Inspector General at the U.S. Postal Service. He was appointed by Donald Trump, and he was actually on the Board of Governors. And he resigned in protest because he was so horrified by what was happening at the Postal Service, and that includes Treasury Secretary Mnuchin taking over, essentially. He described a takeover of the Postal Service with unprecedented involvement from Secretary Mnuchin, scrutinizing contracts, providing specific input on pricing, specific regulations, all kinds of things. And then DeJoy, he described the interview process, which he was in the room for, where there were multiple candidates, he said in the teens of candidates, and DeJoy was clearly not competent, was getting answers from others, other members of the Board of Governors, because he couldn't answer the questions properly. He got appointed to this position. He is a Trump mega donor, and he has significant conflicts of interest with a number of the businesses that contract with the Postal Service, and new information about options that he has with various stock options that he has with various companies. He stands to benefit if the Postal Service doesn't do well, and if he can then privatize all of these elements. So on every level, from taking out postal boxes to mail sorting machines to delay tactics, this was complete corruption and undermining of our democracy and the ability for people to vote by mail, as well as the blood on their hands, as one witness described it, of people not being able to receive medications, not being able to get retiree checks, all the other things that the Postal Service does, and that people rely on it for.
Well, as you know, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is calling back members Saturday over legislation designed to stop changes at the Postal Service. What do you think Congress needs to do to ensure that mail-in ballots, in particular, as well as those other things you mentioned, are not delayed?
Well, we need to immediately reverse all of the changes that have been made back to January 1st. That is what our legislation that we will vote on Saturday will do. And we need to fund the Postal Service with $25 billion. That's emergency funding. It is the minimum level that is required. But then I think we need to do serious investigations. I think Louis DeJoy should resign immediately. It is clear to me that he has other interests here. And I think we also need to get Secretary Mnuchin to Capitol Hill to testify, because Mnuchin's interference in the postal system is unprecedented. And that is something Mr. Williams, who has served multiple administrations, both Republican and Democrat, said multiple times during the hearing. This is unprecedented. I have never seen anything like this. He said it was a 10 on the scale of 1 to 10 of how much Americans should be worried about what is happening, and this fundamental constitutional right that people have to receive their mail. So fundamental that it's in Article 1 of the Constitution as critical infrastructure. It should be increased, not decreased during this pandemic.
Well, let's turn to the convention. You originally supported Senator Bernie Sanders in the primary contest because of his progressive platform. Do you think the Democratic Party has done enough, and the DNC has done enough, to promote progressive policies over the past few nights?
Well, I think that there is always room for more, obviously. But I think that last night in particular was a very important night for America and for progressives and young people across the country, really highlighting issues of gun violence and the leadership of young people, highlighting issues of immigration and the crises of family separation and deportations across the country. And then, of course, the movement, women's movement that has been powered by such a diverse, multiracial set of people across the country. And so I think yesterday was a good night. Having Elizabeth Warren speak was good. Kamala Harris delivered an excellent speech. And I think the gravity of President Obama's speech really says to everybody, look, there are two choices on the ballot, and we have to get Donald Trump out. There is no progress possible with Donald Trump in the White House. And so I think that we've made tremendous strides, and I think that we have to get everybody excited and energized about voting Trump out and voting in President Biden and Kamala Harris as vice president so that we can continue the work we have to do towards our progressive policies for justice.
I do want to ask you about that moment. So when Senator Kamala Harris accepted the vice presidential nomination, she did make history as the first Black and South Asian American to run on a major party ticket. That multicultural background was reflected in her remarks, and I want to listen now to some of what she said.
Family is our beautiful children, Cole and Ella, who call me Mamala. Family is my sister. Family is my best friend, my nieces, and my godchildren. Family is my uncles, my aunts, and my chitties.
Now, social media exploded at that line. Congresswoman, what does chitti mean, and what did you think, given your background, when you heard your party's vice presidential candidate use that term?
It's phenomenal. I mean, it's a Tamilian word. I was born in Madras in Chennai. It's now called in Tamil Nadu. It's a term of endearment for our close family members. And I have to say, I didn't expect it, but I got very teary when she said the line, "I accept the nomination for Vice President of the United States." As the first South Asian American woman in the U.S. House, I came in with Kamala Harris when she was the first South Asian American woman in the Senate, the second Black woman in the Senate. And now to see her on the major party ticket making history is phenomenal, because she brings these multiple identities that allow people to see their own experiences reflected in her. And through those experiences, I believe she will make better policy. She and I introduced the National Domestic Workers Bill of Rights together, something that Joe Biden has said that he would like to sign into law. She and I have worked on immigration issues together. As a child of two immigrants, I believe she understands the issues in a way that many other people wouldn't. And so it was a moment of real wonder, I think, for so many people, because you do see your future differently when you see people breaking ceilings. And I loved that she recognized all the shoulders of women before her, strong Black women, and she named them before her, on which we stand, because that is the legacy. And we as South Asian Americans are proud of her Blackness, and we're proud of her South Asian American identity as well.
Right, politics aside, it is a moment in our nation's history. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, Congresswoman, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.